Are we going?
Girl.
Okay. So this is day 2 of my 365-day challenge. My kids told me my first video didn't open up, but or they couldn't see it on YouTube. But I'm still gonna make it because I made that commitment to make it. You can see I have my hair braided back. It's actually long, but I didn't feel like taking it down and doing anything with it or putting a face on today. I figured that you can get to know me like this and you could get to like it. And then I'll switch up to something different. So today, what I wanted to talk about was an episode of The View. The episode was from yesterday. And the girls got to talking about racism. And Whoopi made the comment that only black people could understand what racism is. And of course, Rosie Perez told a story that saying that that's not true. And she's Puerto Rican, and she talked about being down in Texas at some high end hotel, and with her sister for some conference or event that she had to be at. And then turned up around, the people were thinking her sister was a maid working at the hotel. Rosie O'Donnell piped up and said that that's not true. She said she had a black child, but also you don't have to be black to understand racism. So they started getting Rosie O'Donnell and Whoopi into a back and forth thing about if you had to be black to understand racism. And let me just tell you that on my end, I completely disagree. I think anyone of color understands racism. And I think white people understand racism because they've got the white privilege and they are the ones that are able to enact that, emit that towards other races. Rosie told her story. She's Puerto Rican. Myself, I'm biracial. I'm an educator and come from a family of educators, teachers, and principals. One year, we were, myself, my husband, and a few coworkers, we were going to a conference. He was actually driving us because we had to drive a long way from where we were in Milwaukee all the way up to northern Wisconsin. So we drove, we stopped off at the hotel. No, let me take that back. We didn't stop at the hotel. We decided to go right to the conference because we didn't want to show up as late. The black teachers from Milwaukee late. So we went to the facility where they're going to have the conference. And a few of us went to the front door and it was locked. So we locked on the door. We didn't know were we late or what, were they changed their mind. Parking lot was kind of empty. And a young white lady came to the door and said to us, without asking who we were or what we wanted, she just automatically said, the cleaning crew has to enter from the back. And one of my friends said, "Are you talking to us?" And she said, "Yes." And we were appalled. We let her know that we were not the cleaning crew, that we are attendees to the conference, that we are educators from Milwaukee, and we're going to come through the front. Um, of course, I've been through the go into the store, and I'm followed all around and around and around the store to see what am I going to pick up. I think about if anyone knows their history, and it's sad that Whoopi is on a show that's supposed to be with intelligent women, and usually I like her. I'll side with some of her things, but the lack of intelligence that she showed when she talked about only white people knew of racism. In 1940s, Pearl Harbor, which is in Hawaii, was bombed by the Japanese. And so in reaction to the bombing, just prior to the United States getting into World War II, every person who was of Asian descent, and when I say Asian, I'm talking about Japanese, Chinese, Korean, what have you, had to go into our own version of concentration camps. They called them work camps. And they had to live on those. They lost their homes, their jobs, anything, everything, because they had to stay there 2 years until the American government decided to release them and saw that they weren't a threat or a terrorist group. Nowadays, no one would ever put up with that, but back then they did. I can't say that only blacks know racism because there was no blacks locked up for 2 years. But that was a racist move, assuming that because you are Asian or Asian descent, you were a threat to our country. Even though, if you look at your history, it was the Chinese who helped build the railroads out west uh, to get us back and forth across this country before that country and land was even settled. I'm from Milwaukee originally, although I've spent most of my life in Las Vegas, and there is a huge difference. The people that live out west are far less racist. They have their thing, but it isn't racism. It's money. You got money, you're good. If you don't, you don't. I've lived in California. They have a profound amount of racism towards uh, Hispanics. They will blacks can get a slide, a pass, or whatever down there, but Hispanics they get it hard going and coming. Even though they're there doing the work that we wouldn't do, we don't do. So for whites always talking about that Hispanics take their jobs, those are not jobs that they would want to do, digging and picking out in fields. If they did, they would have did it. Um, Unfortunately, racism has gotten to be more global now. But prior to the time of Hitler, there was not such a thing. There was no terminology, which means that it was a social construct. It was made up. And it was to prove by scientists that worked for the Nazi organization that people that had darker hair and darker eyes or darker colored skin were inferior intellectually to whites or the Aryan nation, primarily blonde hair people, blonde hair, blue eyes. And their really aim was to be able to explain or justify why the Nazis and Hitler were killing millions of Jews, gypsies, Slavs, even handicaps. So people need to do their history, understand that racism is made up. And to even be talking about today is really ignorant to me. To think that only one group of people can understand it is ridiculous. If whites are the persons that are enacting racism or differential or preferential treatment, it's because that's what they've learned at the house or from one another or classmates or schoolmates. So of course they understand racism. They know what they do and what they don't do. And unfortunately, to believe anything else is utterly ridiculous. But anyways, I got this, like I said, I was inspired to make this from watching The View. And it's sad to see people still finding differences based on color. The funny thing about it is, and most people don't even understand, that the fact that they want to talk about color is just what the top 1 or 2% of the wealthy people in this world want you to focus on. It's like a magic act. Focus on my hands or this scarf, and I'm going to pull a rabbit out of my hat. But in this case, the rabbit is money, and it's going to benefit me. So continue with that if you choose with racism. Tell me what you think. I'm here doing promoting 365 days. Press the like button. Subscribe. Leave your comment on what you think about it. And thank you for watching. God bless. Bye-bye.